Well, hello everybody, and again, it's great to have so many of you joining us for a very insightful session to come, and it is all about how to make your social media accessible and inclusive for all. I will be shortly joined by Prue Watson from the National Institute of the Blind. So, welcome, Prue.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
And yes, if you want to, yes, get us started and I'll join later on for questions.
Lovely stuff. As Lisa said, we're going to talk through how to make your social media accessible and inclusive for everyone. So I'm Prue, I'm the Senior Manager here at RNIB. I am a white woman. I have orange hair, which is usually in a bob, as is on the picture on screen, but I've got it tied up today. And I've got a very thick, straight fringe. I'm wearing some glasses and a black top with a gingham jumpsuit over the top. And on screen is my picture, and it says my job title plus cat wrangler because I have two cats and they are likely to come and say hello while I'm delivering this. And I'm also a wannabe florist. Do that in my spare time. So just to kick us off, we wanted to give a bit of context of why we talk about social media accessibility. And it's simply because inclusive content matters. So on screen, we've got a picture of a love heart, which looks like it's been scribbled in with pink felt tip, and it says, accessibility is a love note. It says, we want you here too. It means that if you are being accessible in your social comms, that everyone can join in the conversations, the memes, and all the weird and wonderful things that happen online, because there are a lot. We love that you're here. We love that you want to learn more. So I'll get to the nitty gritty. This presentation will go into quite a lot of actionable tips that you can take away and hopefully implement kind of straight away. There's a lot in here. We wouldn't expect everyone to go away and do all of it instantaneously. You can build it up and kind of get to grips with stuff step by step. To kick us off, I'm going to talk through alt text and image descriptions. So, do you use alt text is the major question. And if you don't, after today, we're going to give you all of the tools that you need to be able to start using it. Take that back. So why use it? It includes disabled people. If you're not using alt text, there are around 2 million people who can't enjoy the content you've worked really hard on. It puts you in a very exclusive club right now. So sadly, hardly any brands or social media users add alt text. The ones which do, like Innocent, get well-earned bragging rights. It makes you look good, and who doesn't have a humble brag on social? Using accessibility features marks you out as a socially conscious person or brand, and that can only be a good thing in this world with purpose-driven comms. And you could make more money, and this is quite a crude way of looking at it, but it's true. Blind people will become advocates for your company. Plus, if you're an agency or a brand, you could charge clients more for your time to draft alt text. So it's also something you could ask your agencies to be doing for you as well. But what is alt text? So I'm going to go through what image descriptions are and what they are not, because there's sometimes a bit of confusion around that. So what are they? They are alternative or alt text, and it's a written description of an image. It's also referred to as an image description. Image descriptions or alt text should be added to all images, GIFs, and memes. All text goes in the designated alt text. Image descriptions go at the end of your post after your copy. So you can have alt text, which goes back in the back end, and then image descriptions go at the bottom of your copy and they're visible to anyone, whereas the alt text on certain platforms can only be read by screen readers. The alt badge is your best friend on X or Twitter and Threads. So on those platforms, you can see at the bottom of the image, there is an alt text badge, and that tells you that the person's added alt text. And if you click on it, you can read to see what they've written. What they absolutely are not for is extending your copy for inside jokes, adding photo credits, or boosting your search engine optimization. So on screen, I've got a picture of the meme that was going around, which was people were including a picture, which said click here with an arrow to the alt text, and then they would say a joke relating to their brand or products. It's absolutely not for that. In that instance, the alt text would be to say that the image is text, click here with an arrow pointing to the alt text, not a joke. But why use alt text? And how to write alt text as well. So be descriptive, but don't write a novel. You don't need to include every single detail, just the main elements that need to be conveyed. Get the main message across. So what's the main thing you want to communicate with your image, and make sure that comes across. Use the same tone as the content you're describing. If you're trying to be funny, be funny. If it's a serious message, be serious. Conveying the tone of the image as well as the message is really important. And include any text in the image too. If there's text in your image, for example, like important stats, write that out all in your description. We see loads of alt text and image descriptions where an image is basically like a whole statement, and then the alt text will just say statement, and that doesn't really tell anyone who's blind or partially sighted what the actual information is. So make sure you include all text. We're all human. We even do this here on RNIB. We will sometimes forget to add it. But there are a few things that we do that can help try and prompt you. So for instance, within all of our content planning, we have, when we're using like Excels, we have a whole, what the word is, column to include alt text and image description. So we'll have a copy, we'll have our image description. And we sometimes have post-it notes around our screen, and we've also recently written a accessibility checklist guide, which should be linked at the end of this, to use for anyone. So that's available on our website, so that you can have that pinned somewhere and you can kind of tick off as you're going and creating your content and going through the posting process to make sure everything is there. But one of the cool things, and we'd love this to be on more platforms, is that you can add an alt text reminder on Twitter. So you just need to take 3 steps. You go to settings and privacy, choose accessibility, display and languages, and then just tick receive image description reminder, and that turns it on. So if you are about to post a tweet with an image and you haven't put any alt text on it, it will prompt you to add alt text before you post. Like I said, we'd love for every platform to have an alt text reminder, but just create your own for the other platforms while we campaign in the background for that to happen. So just some examples of good alt text. We have quite a lot of fun here doing alt text in our team. So on screen, I have a tweet that we shared, which was Jeremy Allen White in his briefs, in his Calvin's, when Calvin Klein released their campaign earlier this year. The copy on the tweet reads, "We've written image descriptions to help blind and partially sighted people decide which thirst trap is their favourite. See the alt text for more," and side eyes emoji, "and tell us which one do you choose." So the 2 image descriptions that we wrote for those were a film photo of Jeremy Allen White standing in front of a red sofa on a rooftop in New York City, wearing only white Calvin Klein briefs. His curly hair and lean-toned physique is silhouetted against the pale evening sky. He stands with his arms by his side, smiling off camera. And for the second, we wrote a film photo of Jeremy Allen White standing in front of a red sofa on a rooftop in New York City, wearing only white Calvin Klein briefs. His curly hair and lean-toned physique is silhouetted against the pale evening sky. He stands with his arms by his side, smiling off camera. Oh, I think we've repeated that actually, sorry. The second one is him standing against a ladder with his arms up, and he's looking off again. So basically it's just a really short description of what is happening in that image. And just as an example of kind of including all text, so on screen I've got a screen grab of an asset we put out about emoji usage, which we will get to shortly, but this will give you some tips in the meantime. And the image description reads, "There are 2 lists of do's and don'ts in a white box overlaid on a pink background. To the left is a list of the do's, and the text reads, limit emojis to no more than 1 per post. Check the meaning of your emoji on Emojipedia, as the meanings don't always translate. Use emojis that work well on both light and dark backgrounds." And then to the right, there's a list of the don'ts, and the list of text reads, "Don't put emojis in the middle of a sentence or to replace any words. Don't put emojis before an important message or call to action, and don't use repeated or too many emojis." So basically you put all text in your image description, and then any like information, visual information that needs to be shared, like our do's and don'ts list, you add as well. And then the final one is just a nice little cute one. We've got a screenshot of a tweet we shared following the Oscars. The tweet reads, using the alt text fields to add an image credit is a bit of a messy move, the dog emoji. This should only be used to describe the image for blind and partially sighted people like this. There was a lot of people resharing a post that was basically just the credit for the photo in the alt text. And when we see that quite a lot, particularly with like publishers and newspapers and that kind of thing, but we've seen it with brands as well occasionally. It's definitely not for that. In this instance, the description we wrote was Messi, the border collie who starred in The Anatomy of a Fall at the Oscar ceremony. He's sitting in his very own plush purple chair and looking over his shoulder at the camera. He's white with grey markings and his bright pale blue eyes. His tongue is out and a bow tie is peeking out under his collar. So we tried to kind of get a little bit of the cuteness and the cheekiness of him, but just mainly to explain what is happening in that picture rather than just giving it a credit. And a question we get asked quite a lot is, can AI do it? And the answer is not yet. So on screen, I've got some versions of one tweet that we shared. So the tweet was, is it okay that we had to add alt text to your image for people with sight loss, even though your show promotes positive disability representation? And an AI generated alt text came up with a person on stage with a microphone in hand pointing into the audience. The background has blue lighting and geometric shapes. There's a desk with objects and a mug on it. The individual is wearing a suit with an open collar shirt and a handkerchief in the pocket. We wrote for our alt text, Adam Hills wearing a suit on the set of The Last Leg, pointing accusingly at something off camera. His desk, featuring a teapot, headphones and various other trinkets, and the studio audience are in soft focus in the background. What AI has done in that instance has really made the set the focus of that image, and that's not really the important bit. The important bit is what Adam Hills is doing, and he looks like he's being accusing. He's accusing something that we can't, or someone that we can't see just off camera. So AI just isn't quite there yet. We think it will get there eventually. And we know that the social platforms are working on that behind the scenes. But for now, just don't rely on it. We need to write human-based alt text. And even if AI does get good enough, we're probably still going to need to check it and tweak it just to make sure it is accurate. So that is everything alt text and image descriptions. So I'm just going to move on to hashtags next. So on screen, I have another post that we've shared before. It is a blue graphic, and in the middle is just like a cartoon face that looks a bit shocked. At the top, we've got a box with a tick that says Susan hashtag Susan album party, and at the bottom we've got a cross. And if you all remember way back when was it X Factor or after X Factor, and there was a social media meltdown because camel case wasn't used, and so it looks like the hashtag actually says, when it doesn't include capital letters, is Sue's anal bum party. So in order to avoid yourself a PR disaster like that, but also to make your hashtags accessible to blind and partially sighted people, always use camel case, which is also known as Pascal case, and it refers to the capitalizing the first letter of each word within hashtags. It ensures your words are read out correctly by screen readers, and it makes them easier to read for everyone. Like I said, you'll avoid a PR disaster. A few other small tips. Limit hashtags to 1 or 2 per post, 2 maximum, and don't use them like one after the other unless right at the very end of your post. So like on Instagram or LinkedIn, where hashtags can be quite useful sometimes. For people listening to the internet through a screen reader, they have to listen and navigate between each hashtag, and it can become pretty tedious. So just keep it to 1 or 2. On a really similar vein, and you've heard some of these tips already, I'm going to move on to emojis. So how many emojis is too many emojis? Kind of given you the answer to this already. We love emojis, you love emojis, but screen readers read out the name of every single one you include in your copy. So here are our top tips. Limit them to 1 or 2 per post, like with hashtags, 2 maximum. Don't put them between each word. Don't use, which is kind of a big trend at the moment is to kind of put them between each word, and don't use them one after the other. Don't use them as a different emoji for each. Let me say that one again. Don't use a different emoji for each bullet point. So particularly on LinkedIn, but on Twitter, we see a lot of people writing posts, and they break up their posts by using different emojis to kind of highlight their different points. That's really inaccessible for blind and partially sighted people using screen readers. So if you absolutely feel like you have to do it, use the same emoji, but find another way of making your copy clear and succinct and kind of impactful is our recommendation. And be really mindful of emoji names, and don't rely on them to get a message across. So you might think that crying laughing emoji is one thing, but a screen reader will say face with tears of joy. So when in doubt, check Emojipedia. It's a really, really useful tool, and I've actually learned a lot about what emojis are supposed to be named rather than what we think they are. So just got a little video to share here of emoji misuse in action.
Pregs, we love you bestie, but this is what your tweet sounds like to blind people.
S yellow square, A blue square, U yellow square, S blue square, A yellow square, G blue square, EI yellow square, O blue square, L yellow square, L, I blue square, NB yellow square, I blue square, O.
So as you can see, that is quite tedious to listen to, but I particularly love the O at the end, because it's like the screen reader is dismissing Greg's tweet. We had this conversation with Greg's, and we've also called them out for use of alt text before, and they are really amenable to our feedback, and they have made changes to the way they kind of share content and jump on trends, because this was them trying to be funny about bots that are always like whatever in bio, but the joke doesn't land for blind and partially sighted people using screen readers because it's just so hideous to listen to. So just be really careful when you're thinking about jumping on trends. Is it actually accessible?
Pregs.
Oh, we don't want to listen to that again. Moving on to making your videos accessible. So there are quite a few tips to go through here, and it can be quite a lot to take in. And you might come up with questions kind of following this session. So if you do, you can reach out to our team and we'll be really, really happy to answer them. But I'll go through kind of the basics now. So always add subtitles to your videos. It's not just people who are deaf or hard of hearing who find captions useful. Lots of people do. Headliner is a great free app, which it does have a paid for subscription, but you can use it for a certain number of videos for free, and CapCut is great as well. Captions with white text on black backgrounds are easiest for blind and partially sighted people to read. And you might not know this, but that's important, as most blind and partially sighted people can see something, so 93% in fact. So that could be that some people have peripheral vision or tunnel vision, or it could be that they are blind, but they still have a concept of like light and shadow. So most blind and partially sighted people can actually still see something. So making our content as highly contrasted as possible is really, really important. And just a note, because often people are using auto-generated subtitles, is just to check them before posting. There can be some very funny mistakes in there. And then just to touch on kind of audio-led versus audio-described. So audio-led videos are when the intended message is shared audibly and visually. And audio-described videos include a narration of what's happening, describing the visual elements. So always aim for audio-led or audio-described content, and always have a voiceover reading the text on screen. There are loads and loads and loads of videos that go out without any kind of voiceover or sound recognition, and they're just completely inaccessible for blind and partially sighted people. And your funky music and cool visuals look good, but they just aren't accessible. So just consider that when you're making them. Sometimes a video that you're sharing, say from a content creator, might not be totally audio-led or audio-described, and we recommend adding a video description in your copy, like we've said with alt text for images. just to kind of explain what we mean by this, because it's a lot to take in, I've got a couple of examples. So this is an example of audio description.
And I would love for you to come and experience one of my images in person.
I would love that so much.
Great.
Yagazi leads Lucy to a large, colourful picture covered in braille. She guides Lucy's hand to the top left corner. Lucy runs her hands over the picture and her brows go up.
Oh my gosh, is this Braille?
And I would love for you to come and
Oh, sorry. So hopefully that gives you an idea of kind of how the audio description feeds in kind of between the spoken word. And then audio led, we've got an example of that here.
Me when someone says, I don't look blind.
What do you mean? What do you mean? What do you mean?
So that you can see the intended message is being heard audibly, but we don't have the audio description running alongside because it is inherently accessible. And finally, just a video description. We've got an example, which is a video description of the original video I played, which is Lucy walks up steps with her guide dog. The Canon logo appears. She sits with Yagazi. Yagazi leads her towards Prince We Can't See, a world unseen title. Yagazi places Lucy's hand on a tactile image, and Lucy puts her hand to her face. They hug. Watch now.
And I would love for
Me
you.
when
And just a note on TikTok, I'm sure lots of you are over there, either making content for your charities or for yourself, which is just as, all of this is just as important when you're thinking about content for yourself as much as it is for your brand accounts that you're managing. So the main thing to remember on TikTok is that screen readers cannot access the text you overlay onto your videos or carousels. So TikTok is actually really inherently inaccessible. And it means that the majority of content on TikTok isn't accessible to people with sight loss. So you must use the text to speak function to bring any text written on your video to life, just like that previous example that I shared, the audio led example with Jennifer Lawrence. So to do that, you would record and upload your video, tap text and type in your caption, and then you tap that again and select the text-to-speech option and choose the voice that you want. There are loads of wonderful voices on TikTok, so you can have a play with it.
Hi everyone, my name.
Oops, sorry, I didn't mean to play that straight away. We've got an example of voiceovers as well, because you can add voiceovers after the fact that you filmed the content. So we do that quite a lot. They're a really useful tool to help make sure your videos are audio led while fitting in seamlessly with other content on the platform. So we have filmed quite a few outfit of the day videos with people who are blind and partially sighted. It's a really familiar format for people. It's what is shared on the platform quite a lot, and it inherently kind of naturally describes what's on screen for people. So I'll just play a little bit to give you an example.
Hi everyone, my name is Lisa. I'm partially sighted and I have a condition called nystagmus. I love myself a cute outfit, and with this week being London Fashion Week, I thought I would show you how to audio describe your outfit of the day for blind and partially sighted people. So let's get into it. So for my top, I'm wearing a...
Ooh, sorry, I didn't mean to go back. So it just gives you an example of how you can add a voiceover over the top to kind of make sure it's still audio led. And then before we kick off into questions, just got a few other handy tips, which hopefully you can take away and put in place after this session. So fancy fonts have become a bit of a trend in recent times. And on screen, I've got a picture of a blue graphic. It's got don't use fancy fonts written in regular English near the top. And then around that, it says the same sentence over and over and over again, but in loads of different weird and wonderful fonts, which are totally illegible. So they really make your post stand out, but for all the wrong reasons. They're really difficult to read for anyone and aren't accessible for screen reader users. So that includes, like, if you try and make your copy bold or italic, which we're seeing a lot of as well. And screen readers, when they are reading out the copy, they will say bold, capital or italic before each letter, or they just skip it altogether. So it means that blind and partially sighted people miss out on what it is you're trying to say. It's just completely nonsensical, and they'll just move on, so they won't even engage with your content. One thing that people don't really know is you can also make your links accessible when you're sharing content on social media. So we recommend people shorten links with a URL shortener. So we use Bitly. There are others available. And you customize the link to minimize the number of characters and also make the link relevant. It's more accessible for screen reader users when navigating through posts. So I've got an example here. And if you actually go to this website, you will find all of these handy tips I've gone through today following the session. So the example is bit.ly.com/accessible social media. And you'll notice that in the end part, which we've customized, we've used camel case again, so that when a screen reader reads that out, it reads it out as 3 separate words. Otherwise it will make them up with another Susan's album party disaster. So ensure what you're linking to is accessible, and if it isn't, let your followers know. They'll appreciate your transparency. I'm not going to play this for you because this is really, 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 really annoying. But on screen, I've got an example of a tweet shared by Twitter with repeated sentences. It just repeats more words, 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 more words. You get the picture. It's basically just a tweet of that. And it's really, really annoying for screen reader users, and a bit of a nightmare as well trying to navigate through that. So basically just don't do it. A lot of the time we see brands doing like repetition of a sentence even like 3 or 5 times, and even that is annoying. If you've got a really strong sentence, just having it once will make a big impact for both your sighted followers and your blind and partially sighted followers.
More words.
And then one kind of, we're nearly at the end, but one final tip is using all caps can be annoying as well. So you may remember there was a meme that was going around last summer, or maybe a year and a half ago, and it was a young girl and boy at a festival, and she's got her arm around the boy, her arm in the air, and she looks like she's shouting down the ear of the young boy. We shared a tweet that said, the thing with screen readers, they sometimes say capital letter out loud before every capital letter. So while this meme is legit funny, it'd be painful for anyone using screen reading technology. So I'm just going to talk directly into your ear canal, all right? And the thing was, everyone was sharing this meme with really funny things, but they were all in capital letters, and kind of along similar lines to everything I've already said. Using capital letters can add a sense of drama, but screen readers read out every single letter, so it can be unintelligible to the person listening, so just avoid them if you can. And then my last point before we get to questions is just our call out to you. You can all make a difference by being an ally. We can't do this on our own. We will not stop talking about this stuff, and we will keep advocating for it, but we need everyone's help as well. So I've got a few points on what you can do to be an ally. First up is don't get defensive. If someone points out your content isn't accessible, take it as an opportunity to learn and improve. It's a really, really important point. It's the same with kind of issues, say race or gender. If someone's telling you that your content isn't accessible, that gives you the perfect opportunity to make a change. It's not the person's fault that's telling you that your content isn't accessible, so try not to take it out on them. And aim for progress, not perfection. So this is a bit of a team mantra of ours, not just in terms of accessibility, it's kind of everything. But we talk about this a lot when it comes to accessibility, because if you aim for perfection, you'll never make progress. But if you do your best and aim for progress, you'll get a lot further. It opens up conversations and you learn things all the time. I don't think I'll ever stop learning about accessibility, but to the next point, just keep learning. Like accessibility is forever evolving and it's always changing. So we know that the platforms that we work on across social media, they change all the time. It can be really hard to keep up with. But it's constantly an opportunity to learn and develop. And we will always be talking about the updates that have happened that have an impact on accessibility, negatively or positively. We'll always shout out the good stuff that's happening as well. the things that might make your lives easier when you're creating content. So give us a follow on TikTok or Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, Threads, and X. We're always shouting about it. And follow Blind and Partially Sighted people too. That's where you will learn the most stuff. We're just RNIB on all of those platforms. And demand change. If a social media platform doesn't allow you to easily make your content accessible, let them know. Disabled people shouldn't need to demand change alone. It's up to us to all play our part. And on that note, does anyone have questions?
Well, thank you very much, Prue, for a fantastic presentation. I loved every bit of it. I loved the sort of PR disasters that you mentioned, or the you know, the section with emoji as well. So that was really insightful. So thank you very much for showing us a glimpse of what you guys work on at RNIB. So that's really good. And I'll dive straight in with questions because we have plenty. So the first one from Mike: are there any scheduling tools that allow you to add alt text?
Yeah, most of them do. We
Okay.
use one in our team, but most scheduling tools do allow you to add alt text. Annoyingly, the only one that doesn't, you can't add alt text to, is Instagram, because their API is closed. So you always have to, if you scheduled something, once that's gone live, you have to then go into Instagram and edit the post and add your alt text once that's live, which is really annoying.
Right. Oh yeah. Okay.
Most tools do allow you to add it.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you. And moving on. So you mentioned that bold or italics aren't always clear for screen readers. Is underlining text accessible, for instance, when sending an email?
Really good question. No, it's not. It's the same thing. Unfortunately, we tend not to use like any like bold or italics or anything like that inbuilt in things like Word. You have the heading structure, so we use that, and that is what separates out kind of key bits of information. So if you have a look in there, you'll see that at the top, and basically it's like a structure. Like heading 1 would be your title, heading 2 would be subtitles, and so on and so forth. So that's
right.
We might copy and paste that over to an email if we needed to make things like really clear and a point, and we were sending something kind of longer as well.
Right. So the important bit of your message would be in the well, either the title or the main heading, basically. Yeah. Okay. Super. Thank you. Moving on, is there an element of responsibility needed for screen readers to ensure that they use advanced tech to improve accessibility for user? So yeah, somebody who's curious, is this something that can also be campaigned for, and how do we support that?
So another really good question. It's in terms of social media, it's really the pressure needs to be put on the platforms to be accessible. So screen reader technology is actually pretty good, but it's society, and by that, in this case, we're talking about the internet, that's not really set up properly for screen reader users. So yeah, put the pressure on the social media companies, ask them to, wouldn't it be better if they just could automatically describe images correctly rather than kind of some of the waffle we get through some of them? Because Facebook, for instance, does have AI generated alt text, and it will automatically apply that if you don't add alt text, but it will often come up with things just like logo. That might be a really small element of your picture, so we can't rely on it yet. So putting the pressure on them is really the main thing.
Yeah, no, that's a very good point. And a question from Emily, actually. Do you or RNIB perhaps offer free training to help learn correct practices for social media posts, or do you recommend some organizations that do?
So we don't do any free training anymore. We come to things like this to deliver kind of the training free. We have recently introduced a social media masterclass, accessible comms masterclass, which is a day-long session. It's paid for, but within that you get to learn loads about what it is like to be blind or partially sighted. We deliver training within that. It's a very new thing, and
Nice.
there is a cost attached. But if you're interested, we can share the details after this.
Oh, that's really good. Thank you. Yes, definitely. Please do share any link or any information about that so that we can add it to our resources. So that's great. Moving on, is there a recommended approach for accessibility on X, Twitter, where a number of characters are limited?
Ooh, so everything that we've said, kind of, you can keep your
Can apply that.
posts kind of short and simple. We're using hashtags on Twitter X, so make sure you capitalize, use camel case in those hashtags, only use one emoji. It's everything I've said, like add alt text. You don't need to add an image description because there's the alt text button. Yeah, and everything I've said,
Yeah.
there's nothing specific.
Different.
Yeah.
Super. Brilliant, thank you. And then yes, again, somebody else around the emoji and hashtag topic. They were wondering whether it's also annoying tagging accounts within the main text copy. Is it even nice doing any tags at all? I mean, we also do that for our own posts, so it'd be good to know.
These are all really good questions. Yeah, like we still tag people in our posts. We just try not to kind of do hundreds and hundreds.
Oh, yeah.
Sometimes, like today, for instance, not today, well, a post that we're planning for the weekend, we need to tag quite a few people on LinkedIn. So we're getting them all tagged in. But like on Twitter, for instance, if you we see quite a lot of people that reply to something, then they'll tag in loads of accounts. And then it's just like at Lisa, at Prue, at Charlie,
Yes.
at Alex. Like it's like
Yes.
But you can absolutely tag people in your posts. Just try not to make it hundreds and hundreds. Yeah.
People, great. Thank you. Thank you for that. Another question, and they keep on going. This is great. It's really is. It's a really great topic. So is there a So is there a website they could use to test social media copy with a screen reader emulator?
That's another really good question. So depending on what software you use, Microsoft have an inbuilt reader that you can test it with. Or if you're using like your phone, like iPhones and stuff, and Androids, they all have inbuilt screen reader or voiceover software.
Yes.
So you can test them on there as well. It is a really interesting experience to try it, and you will learn quite a lot. We often will just, to test stuff ourselves, we will often go on our phones and use the voiceover software. It is a wild experience if you're not used to it, but it really opens up your mind as to kind of what the experience will be like. If you're going to do it and you're using an iPhone, I highly recommend getting the floating button on your screen, just in case you get stuck and you want to like navigate back to turn it off. That will help you immensely.
Okay.
My one's got really stuck, but thankfully had that button on.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, great. Well, thank you for the tip. And yes, I'll go with one last question. There were plenty, so thank you very much to everybody for asking them, and we'll share that with you, Prue. So you know, if you have some chance to go through that, and we can add that to the resources. One last one from Halina. How can I make visual changes to text for sighted staff in meeting minutes? Because staff say it's helpful to have text highlighted visually, especially those who are neurodivergent. So how do we manage these different requests?
I'm not sure I completely understand the question, to be honest. Is it when people are in meetings, should they be reading this stuff out?
Oh, yes. So the way I understand, so visual changes to text for, oh yes, for sighted staff. So I guess having it, yeah, how do you probably manage between people who are neurodivergent who might like some highlighting or bold or red, for instance, and then other staff? I guess maybe as a broader question, how do you manage perhaps different, you know, visual abilities amongst your team?
Yeah, it's a really good question. A lot of the stuff that we do is kind of is like what I said before, like it's using the different like document types to create like just the accessible documents. We tend not to kind of like highlight stuff or make stuff bold.
Yeah.
Even though like if our documents and everything are accessible, often they'll go over to people, and even blind and partially sighted people will then tweak it to work for them. We just have kind of like a standard guide
Yes,
for us to work to, which is kind of like making sure the text is big enough and like headers and stuff like that, like I said. But we don't, because if we were to use, for instance, like bold red, that would be inaccessible for quite a lot of our staff members. So I'll be honest, we haven't really nailed it. It's a really good point. One that I think I'm going to take back. So you've given me
something. Exactly. Oh, that's well. I'm glad, and that yeah, just this question got you also thinking, because yeah, this is what we're putting this event for. But yeah, no, thank you very much, Prue, for your time today. It's been really great having you. That's all we've got time for today, but yeah, going through all the other questions, yeah, hopefully you got, I know you're quite busy, so hopefully you and your team have some time to help us answer those. But yeah,
we can absolutely answer them. We love that everybody's got so many questions. It's really heartwarming for us.
Heartwarming, I know.
And I'm in the deck, which I don't know if will be shared, but we've got some links as well for other guides for people if they want to find out more.
Well, that's brilliant. Well, thank you very much once again, and thank you to everybody joining us today. We're going to have one last wrap-up session at 4:05. But yeah, it's been really great having you with us, Prue, and well done again for the job you're doing at RNIB.
Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.